All right, welcome to another Schlockenoff Films Patreon uh, audio, but with video commentary track. I'm doing them with video, so you can kind of watch me shift, or if I pick my nose, or if I have to get up and go to the bathroom or anything like that. So we're gonna do 1981's The Evil Dead. Uh, I don't know what you can say about this movie, which hasn't already been said by far better people than me. People always call this a student film. It is not in any. It's not. I said it like Tommy Wiseau there. It's not a student film. It is. It's Sam Raimi. It's Robert Tappert. It's Tom Sullivan. It's Bruce Campbell. Yes, they had done Into the Woods before this, the short film which they used to get the funding for this. But these guys had been making Super 8 films since they were kids, and they were battle tested, and you're gonna see. Anybody who's seen this movie before already knows some of the sort of avant-garde, quirky, idiosyncratic techniques that Raimi used, and maybe these guys they didn't know enough to know that, like, this isn't how you make a movie, but they trusted him enough to go with all the little weird, quirky things, and that's what makes this movie so fucking special to me. So, cue up your copy, and we're gonna hit play. There we go. And here we go with The Evil Dead. I've spoken of this movie many times before. It's one of those movies that basically changed how I view filmmaking, because I saw this in, I want to say, third grade. I'd seen maybe fourth grade, because I saw Army of Darkness in the theater, and I had no idea that it was a sequel to Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. It was a dude at a video store who told me, like, well, this is the third movie. And I'm like, what? Like, how is that possible? Where did this come from, And I remember, I don't know if I was at a sleepover or just hanging out at a friend's house, but his dad found us the first one, and I just absolutely consumed it. And then when Renaissance Pictures presents, I was transfixed by it. And The Evil Dead, I just love the wavy kind of vibe of it. It's so in that style of Grindhouse, drive-in, 42nd Street films, but you'll notice pretty quickly that this isn't like any of those movies. I've seen all the behind-the-scenes pictures of them with the camera, with the big waders on, walking through this gross pond and shit like that. And it's just the idea that the camera is another character. And it's not the first time that's ever been done. There's the classic, the Delta, which appears in all of Raimi's films, including The Quick and the Dead, which is a Western. They have it on a wanted poster in the background. This isn't the first time that the camera is another character, but there's just this weird, chaotic energy to this one, which feels so gonzo. Our characters singing along, and the truck always kind of feels like. And what map are they following here? It looks like it's like, Ash, how do you know where you're going like that? The truck always kind of reminds me of the one in, like, a little bit of Last House on the Left, and a little bit The Lazy Mary, and a little of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which is the Black Maria, because the Rita is the ship in Creature from the Black Lagoon. Little shots like the camera below the steering wheel, and her up in the window screaming and stuff like that. It's just little things right off the bat. We're like, okay, if this is the first time, what is this? What are we getting into here? and the camera back and forth too. Feels a little bit like in Clerks, when in their car. There's Sam Raimi and Rob Tapert. I'm not beeping at you. Just waving on the side of the road. Obviously, you know, the big thing with this was, you know, they were drinking moonshine out of a mason jar. It was a very different time in America, kids. A lot of the actors in this didn't use their real names because they didn't want it to affect other opportunities in the past or in the future. There's Ellen Sandweiss, who's popped up in a lot of Raimi movies. Young Bruce Campbell. If he only knew what a B-movie god he was going to become. You know, a bunch of college friends, and them bringing the women bringing their boyfriends because they were afraid it was going to be a snuff film. There's the fucking dude in the background. I love that shot when the car goes onto the bridge for the first time. One of the crew is still in the shot. What a ham. That ham acting of Bruce Campbell. You know, these guys had gotten together. They'd raised money from, it's a great shot. Just like so ominous, just following behind the car as it goes down this, like, not even a dirt road. It's a grass road, basically, up into nowhere. And it's that kind of Grimm fairy tales idea of moving away from civilization and out into the woods, which was the name of their short film. And, you know, they were able to raise money from dentists, and they got this cabin with no heat, and they were burning furniture to stay warm, and the cabin didn't actually have a basement, so they had to film all the basement scenes at Bruce Campbell's family's, their cottage, and it sounded like making this movie was utter fucking hell. But I think that's kind of what makes it special. It's the art through adversity. It's these people, it's, you know, these young filmmakers who, like I keep saying, probably didn't know any better. You know, they were just trying things and seeing what would happen. And a lot of times a movie will get a cult status, and you'll say, well, it was the right time in the right place, and it really doesn't deserve it when you really think about it, you know, nowadays. But no, this one absolutely fucking deserves it. This one is you know, one of the most important movies of my life. It changed how I look at how a camera should move, how characters interact with the camera, how the energy and the pacing of a movie, what it could be, because I had never seen anything like this before. You know, and then I thought about it later, and I was like, oh wait, yeah, there were scenes from this that were in Nightmare on Elm Street, but I didn't know. Like, you don't think about, you know, movie scenes being in other movies. You always just assume it's something that was made for that movie. Like in Troll 2, like the fucking guy in the gorilla suit sitting on an egg that flies up in the air. You're like, what the fuck is that from, you know? But in this case, it's like, it's so simple that it's so accessible that this movie, I feel like, you know, if it came out with that same marketing, you know, and all the movies that were inspired by Evil Dead never came out, this would still be a cultural touchstone movie for film people, for horror people, because it has this great sense of all this build-up of getting to know these people, and there's all the loose edges of the camera work and the sound work and you know, the acting especially, but it all works in the service of this kind of it all works in the service of this kind of unsettling vibe that the movie has. Like, what are we going for here? We've seen a bunch of dumb teenagers go into the woods type of thing. We've seen a million don't read the scary book, don't play the scary tape recorder thing. It's taking all these tropes that even back then were cliche, and then turning them into something that just goes so full tilt boogie that it becomes its own thing. You know, and Evil Dead is going on to, obviously you have Evil Dead 2, you have Army of Darkness, you have the video games, you have the comic books, you have the remake film, you have the Stars series, you have the new one, the Evil Dead Rise. Like, I've liked I've never played all the games, but, you know, there hasn't been a single one of the movies where I've been like, that wasn't great. Again, it always goes back to the simplicity of the idea of, you know, the Book of the Dead. You know, it's Lovecraftian. It's so simple, and the idea of the Deadites, like, the rules are there, but the dead are such fucking dicks that they're able to change the rules whenever they feel like it, and because they are mocking the living, we just go with it at this point. And that was a big part of my when I was writing the Florida Man script too, was like, you know, I like the idea of the dead being just total fucking assholes, you know, and lulling you into this false sense of these are the rules, and then being like, there are no rules. We're dead things, you know. And I like that Ellen Sandweiss came back and was on the show. Coming back as Cheryl, his sister, drawing the book, and obviously there's another reason why it's a video. My wallet is the Necronomicon. Again, I just, like I said, I remember so clearly the VHS cover, and it's Ash standing on the cover with the blue background. He's got the axe and popping it in, and my buddy and I at first kind of, we're joking and we're laughing about it and stuff like that, and laughing at the bad acting and at the cheesy special effects, but eventually it kind of hit me as to how different and special this was. And I remember taking it home and just watching it again, and then watching it again, and like falling in love with all the little things that are in this movie, and I'll get them as they come up. This scene, the my Greek friends scene, apparently they tried to shoot it once where they were all actually stoned, and it did not pan out very well, so they had to go back and do it again. Party down. And traditionally we would think that Scotty would be the lead, because he's kind of the handsome, brave, everyman. Party down. Boom. The just cool framing, cool blocking of the, you know, we know by sheer, you know, Dark Ride vibes that thing is going to pop open in the background. But I just love her in the foreground, that in the background, and it pops open. It's such cool, you know, camera work, and it makes you constantly looking around as to where things are, and even these POV shots here, like Raimi's able to disorient, and it's for such a young guy making this movie, you know, and so untested. You know, he'd made Into the Woods, he'd made some Three Stooges shorts with his friends and stuff like that. But he was also a magician, and he knew how misdirection worked and all that, and it definitely shows in this movie. And he was so ahead of his time on so many things. You know, he got some great advice too from you know, distribution and Booker's people, and he's like, you know, get to a certain point and just have the blood running down the screen, and literally that's what we get later, is the blood literally running down the screen. But I've seen this movie so many times, and every time I see it I pick up something new. Like, even as I was watching it again now, as the car is driving towards the thing, I saw it picked up a big, like, branch and was dragging it along. Scotty. But little things like you know, looking up in the from the hole and stuff like that. It's just, nowadays indie filmmakers just put the camera on sticks and just let it play out. You get your you know, you get your close-ups, you get your two shots, you get your wide, you get your reverse and all this kind of stuff. But it's kind of playing with the camera a little bit, but not in a showy way. Like, you're not doing it to be like, look at what an auteur I am. They were doing it to just do something interesting and different, because they didn't want to make horror movies. They knew that was the most commercially viable type of film to make. They wanted to make fucking slapstick comedies, and their follow-up movie to this, Crime Wave, shows that. And Crime Wave has some brilliant things in it. But they had to go back to the well for Evil Dead 2, and thank fuck they did, because Evil Dead 2 might be the greatest, the greatest horror comedy ever made. And when I say, like, independent, this isn't like, when people say, like, oh, independent movies, like, they'll talk about, like, Blumhouse or something like that. Blumhouse is a studio, Trucks outside. You can't watch any of my stuff without hearing something outside. I don't know what's going on out there. I brought takeout home with me to do some work earlier, and there was radios blasting out there and people yelling at each other and stuff. So I waited until all that was done to start recording this, and now there's now it's a bunch of horny people out there. Get it, horns? The camera going a complete 360 around the room to stop back on him is great. And I've worked with so many filmmakers who've borrowed so heavily from this. I know I have. The sound of the pipes, the sound even later in the movie where they go over where the camera's above the wood beams as they go. There's no reason for that to be there, but it's just cool. It's just another little piece of Sam Raimi knowing exactly what he wanted, and it didn't have to make sense to you because it makes sense to him, and it's all part of this weird tapestry that he's weaving. But yeah, I just remember seeing this and then trying to explain to kids on the bus what I had seen. It's like, oh yeah, so the girl gets attacked by the trees, and they they violate her, and then people melt and become cottage cheese, and it's trying to explain, and they're looking at you I think there was a gas leak in Newt's house or something like that. But from there on in, I was just this is how, if you could make movies like this, why would you want to make movies any other way? And then I see Evil Dead 2, and then it just takes this and just takes it to a whole nother level. And that level of, that level of get up and go is there's the Hills Have Eyes poster. Because it goes along in The Hills Have Eyes, there's a Jaws poster ripped. So in this one, there's the Hills Have Eyes poster. Then in Nightmare on Elm Street, Johnny Depp is watching Evil Dead. Then in Evil Dead 2, Freddy's glove is above the door. Fun stuff like that these movies kind of carry over with them. Necronomicon. All the effects were created by Tim Sullivan, and they made a documentary, or Tom Sullivan, I'm sorry. Tim Sullivan is a dude who I used to go to school with. They made a documentary about his work on this movie and just how much stuff he did. And in part 2, obviously they got some other people, but he did the creatures in the beginning. I love this thing, the Kandarian dagger. It pops up along with the Necronomicon in Jason Goes to Hell, along with Fluffy's box from Creepshow, so that people were able to build their own headcanon of how Mrs. Voorhees used the Necronomicon to bring Jason back to life. So Jason's technically a Deadite. But again, I was saying about independent film. Love it just is so unnatural looking, the moon in the shot there, but it builds to this level of, okay, we're getting somewhere now. We've gone past the pale into the grim fairy tale. We're in the woods, now we're in the witch's house, and we have this book of magic spells basically, and it's everything about it should say, don't open the fucking book that's bound in human flesh and inked in human blood, and definitely don't play the audio tape where the guy's telling you about Kandarian burials and all this kind of stuff. But these people are idiots, and we need them to make bad decisions so that the story can happen. But I would say this and Night of the Living Dead are like two of the truest, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre are like the truest of the true horror independent films, like movies that really moved the needle and changed uh, how independent film is made, how independent horror movies, can be perceived, and this one got very lucky, but also totally warranted to have Stephen King throw his name on it as well. And the pull quote that he gave him definitely helped. But I know, like, from watching documentaries about this, like, they pulled, I think it was Palace Video, released it on video and in theaters on the same day. And it was the tree scene got them, it was a video nasty, so it got banned for a long time. So Sam Raimi had to go and defend the movie in England during the whole video nasties thing. But, like, when it comes to, like, indie films that, like, they made a mark. They made a real mark. And yes, Texas Chainsaw became mainstream. Night of the Living Dead has become, a cultural term that we say. But these movies literally came out of a real underground film school punk rock world and were able to become something so much larger. And it gave us Sam Raimi, and who would go on to do the Spider-Man movies, and it gave us Bruce Campbell, who's a B-movie god, If This Chin Could Kill and all that. It's crazy that I don't know if these people, when they were having all the fake shemps come in because everybody had to leave and go back to their real jobs and go back to school and shit to fill in for stuff, like, if they truly knew what they were making and what it would mean to people in the future, and you can't say they got lucky. Like, you can't, because it is so, rough around the edges, but still competent in a world where everybody at this point in 1981 was starting to get into just the hack and slash movies, and we'd come out of we'd come from the drive-in days, the Grindhouse days, the Amicus films and Hammer stuff. Raimi was able to take a lot of that stuff and smash it together, with there's a lot of this movie that's also Equinox, the 1960s film. There's no way you can't look at that movie and say that Raimi wasn't inspired by it. You can't look at something like The Golden Child, the Eddie Murphy movie, and not think that this movie and Equinox inspired that movie as well. In 4K, you really see Campbell's unibrow. But, like, the close-ups on the eyes and stuff like that, I feel like is taken so directly from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, when Sally's screaming at the end, you saw that tight shot on her eye. And it just goes on and on, too. It's like kids playing a game with each other until you get to the And I don't know what this magnifying glass monocle necklace thing that he got her is either. Although I've seen people selling replicas of that at cons, which I always find rather amusing. But I've seen this movie a million times, and every time I see it, I just revel in the, like, again, that idea of, like, man, I if they only knew what they were creating. Now, maybe sometimes Raimi and Campbell probably want to run from it, I'm sure all the years of Campbell being asked if there's ever going to be another Evil Dead movie or whatever, but, like, it struck a chord, Quentin Tarantino and Edgar Wright and people who just, like, they can't stop talking about it when they do certain interviews and all, because it's like it changed the way you perceive things. And this shot out here is very, like, very, very reminiscent of what Argento did with Tenebrae. But like, you wouldn't think of a lot of young filmmakers thinking about this kind of stuff. You would think about filmmakers who are like, okay, we have to get these shots. There's some boobs in the movie because it's a grindhouse movie. You gotta have them. Cheryl was always my favorite. There used to be a woman who used to come to the Wayne Theater when I ran it with her son, who reminded me of Cheryl, a young, this era of Cheryl. And I showed her I kept saying, "You remind me of this actress." She had no fucking clue who I was talking about. It's also got like the Steadicam kind of like from the beginning of the fake slasher movie in the beginning of Blowout, De Palma's Blowout, a little bit too. And we get to the scene that everybody knows, the tree scene. Which when Raimi said he was doing the Great Oz, Great and Powerful, I was like, oh no, I don't want to see how the trees in that one work, because in the Wizard of Oz the trees throw fucking apples at you. This one they throw something else in you. The cutout, man, there just so strange. You're in a whole other world at this point. Like you're in a surrealist, art film kind of a little bit of like the way that the trees are positioned, almost Caligari-esque. And I'm sure that wasn't their intention. Even like filming in real woods, it feels like a set sometimes because of how the background is lit and how the foreground is lit and the smoke and everything. Like almost Ed Woodish in Plan 9 from Outer Space. Now you're in a real place, but just because of the film stock and everything, like it feels like all the stories take place in the book, and it doesn't feel real most of the time. And then you throw in the bizarre sound design, which he amps up in all of his movies. Oh no. And the woods are alive. The woods are a camera, and the camera are a character in their own. I ate Papa John's. Now I don't feel well because it was the only pizza place around here. Very minimal. There's your just playing the vines in reverse, or just waving them at the camera. Uh-oh. Run, Cheryl. I've done this shot before, the reverse of tying up, and I did with film. When I was running the Wayne, we did our cult film intro, and I had my former best friend gets tied up with film while sitting in the chair, and it comes out of the popcorn bucket at her, which is my Evil Dead shot. You can see the seams where it's got to cut the thing that was pre-cut for her. Dragging it away. And I'm sure this was an incredibly uncomfortable scene to film. I know that Rob Tapert married Lucy Lawless, and this was one of the scenes she knew about before she knew that he was the one who made Evil Dead. Uh-oh. And they later on they would say, like, we kind of wish we didn't shoot this scene, but it is like, this is exploitation of that era. Thump. And I feel like I think the movie would have existed on its own without this scene, but I feel like it is one of those shocking moments early on where you're like, okay, we're not safe up here. It is more than just something's making weird sounds in the woods and there's something in the basement. You know, we have all this build up. It's like a roller coaster, build up to this thing. Everybody feels safe, but we as the viewer know that something's not right. And then from here on, it's just dropped down into this abyss of haunted houseism, you know? And that's what I like so much about this movie, and what a lot of people argued about at the beginning. Like, you can't have all this set up and then have nothing after that. It's just all kills and stuff like that. And like, why not? You know, that's essentially what every dark ride is. That's essentially what every roller coaster is. That's why you go to the movies. You go to the movies to be entertained. You go to the movies for the experience, for the ride. And I feel like this movie is the closest that we have to of that era to a funhouse ride. You know, where eventually, you know, you have the twisted, like the funhouse mirrors and stuff. You can't even trust the people you're with. And then from here, I think the you know, as the camera's chasing Cheryl here, kind of realize just how unhinged the vibe of this movie is, and how where before there was a standard level, even with some of the weirder shots, there was a standard level of filmmaking. There was things where you know, they were on a path. From here on out, we're off the path completely, and we can be anywhere. We can do anything within the budget, obviously, constraints of the movie, and within the shemps who they had at their disposal. But that's what I like so much about this movie is, like, once Cheryl goes out in the woods, all bets are off. You know, who we think are the heroes are off. Who we think are, you know, like, who we trust, all that kind of stuff. It's not there anymore. You just throw caution to the fucking wind. And this is definitely the most mean-spirited of all of Raimi's films. And I can see why you know, this one's an unintentional comedy, but you can see why he went into more of like a splat stick dark comedy in the future, was because they didn't want to do tree rape and stuff like that. But, you know, for what this movie is, I feel like it had to be this way. I love the sound that the force in the woods makes as you know, as Bruce Campbell lets her in. It's the woods themselves, Ashley. That was the first time I was like, oh, our hero's name is Ashley. Ashley J. Williams. And you forget how kind of like just how handheld so much of this is. So like how avant-garde so much of it is too. Like how much it feels at times like a stage play, or where, you know, it's these characters in this one space, or how often it feels like, you know, even when we're not the force in the woods, we're another character. There's very, very little time where the movie is on a tripod, you know, and just letting things play out. And I think that's part of it, is just the constant motion of the camera makes such that we don't think about the acting. We don't think about the loose edges of some of the effects and stuff like that, you know. We don't think about the guy standing on the side of the bridge as the car turned in. And always obstructing everything with smog works in this way of like showing us that once we've crossed over into the place where the cabin is, like we're no longer in a world that we understand or can function within, because we're at the will around us. Suspiria style lighting. The only movie with more fog in it would be Pod People, which has more fog than the movie The Fog. I love the backlighting. Just gonna rock the car, make it look like they're driving. But uh-oh. Can't take Cheryl home. Like you've never seen this movie before. Everybody's watching this like, dude, we've seen this movie a million times. You're leaving out all the cool tidbits and trivia and shit like that. It won't let us leave. Even just the shot there where it was him moving down the hill, like it looks like it's Dutch angled, but it's not because the car is completely stationary and is completely level, and that's where I was kind of getting like the Caligari vibe in it, is that things are twisted despite the fact that they're not. Just how uncomfortably close to at times the camera is. I was gonna sit here and gush for the next hour about this movie. I can't I can't just state anymore how much this movie affected me as a kid. Not in a scare. I love this too. Like the way that the bridge is kind of like curled up has like this weird twisted vibe to it as well, like a Terry Gilliam type of feel, or like a Tim Burton type of feel. And this is before Burton even. This is shot in 79, 80. Burton didn't make his first feature till 84 maybe with Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and before that he was working for Disney. Trying to remember what year Frankenweenie was. Totally forgot that Sofia Coppola, Francis Ford Coppola's daughter, is in that. This is a great shot too here. Just lighting it with the headlights of the car, where it's like just a little space is all that we get of light, and everything around it is dark. And one of my favorite line readings in any movie ever is coming up. It's like, Ash, something really bad happened out there to your sister. Maybe we put that thing down and we figure out how to get out of here, since the bridge is out. Do you kids know what that is? That's a tape player. The ultimate experience in grueling terror. Oh, so it was released in 82. I was born in 81. That was made for $375,000 in Tennessee. And this movie's always the 10 I see. Ash, I guessed the card. It's truly amazing. Eight of clubs. One by one. And I love her little playing the violin thing. Kind of goes into the idea of like old school devils, getting into fiddle contests and whatnot. First off, that song's bullshit. Okay, Devil Went Down to Georgia. Devil had some fucking funky ass guitar in it, and Devil won that fiddle contest. Here's such a, this is one of the ones that made me, wince the first time I saw it. The pencil to the Achilles tendon. Oh, that hurts just to think about. And just keep twisting it. Brings the milk shoved down him. Ash is having a bad day. And then they had to wear like the this like glass in their eyes. Boof. Into the fruit cellar. Whack. Of the puppet head. But like little things like this is just it's just a lot of fun. Like you could see again, you could see the edges, but you could also see how these filmmakers, you know, their first time out making like a real feature with someone else's money and all that kind of stuff. You know how they put the pieces together themselves, and the handmaidenness of it is what really makes it stand out for me. And it's the type of movie that, you know, there'll never be another Evil Dead, but like I wish more movies had this movie's energy and this movie's ingenuity to it. Hey, sorry my sister stabbed you with a pencil. And I have my ex best friend and she's very much into, or was, I don't know anymore, musical theater, and we went and saw the Evil Dead musical together, and it was pretty fantastic. What the fuck is that? Your girlfriend has turned into a zombie. I love just the nails sticking out of the thing means that they've tried to do this before, which we'll learn more about in the second one. But also, as it moves in this POV, it just adds another sense of, you know, of danger, where there's these rusty nails just hanging out, like right from where, you know, our POV is looking out. She'd keep making those horrible noises. I don't know. What's wrong with her eyes? Acting. There's one of our fake Shemps. That comes obviously from the Three Stooges. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. Everybody knows this movie. Everybody knows its lore. But a bunch of people would leave and come back. They'd have other people fill in spots, including Ted Raimi, Sam Raimi's brother. And they were always called fake Shemps because of all the Shemps that took over as the lineup kept changing for the Three Stooges. The Three Stooges were a vaudeville act who became big movie stars. Look them up, you young whippersnappers. I was going to say wicker snappers, but I was like, that's not that. Also, just I like how I mean, obviously, it's because they didn't have a lot of money for furniture and stuff like that, and they were burning stuff to stay warm. But I also like how sparse it is on the inside, because it almost reminds me of like a dollhouse in a way. Is that these people are now the pieces on a board for this monster, for these monsters and stuff like that. And we're just puppets, you know. And we're dancing for their as they, you know, as they fuck with us, like, you know, like a kid with, you know, with a magnifying glass would burning ants or something like that. Was that Raimi's intention? Is it us just me reading too much into it? Oh, 100%. They just wanted to make a fun drive-in movie that they could sell and then use that money to make their their real movie. And you know, just this became a cultural calling card. To this day, you see people wearing You know, even casual fans wearing Evil Dead T-shirts and stuff, and then people always get it confused because they automatically think of Army of Darkness, Bruce Campbell, compared to this one. It's like, no, these movies didn't start out as comedy. It was unintentional comedy, dark comedy, um, you know, but they didn't become the Ash that we know now until Army of Darkness. In part two, he was still kind of a blend of this first movie's character. The two is my favorite. Um, the inventiveness on display in that movie is just, it's so off the charts. It's literally the one of the most inventive independent, and it's not even independent at that point because the company Rosebud was because Dino De Laurentiis couldn't have an X-rated movie that they were producing, so they had to create a fake company for it. And again, it's produced by Dino De Laurentiis, but you know, it still was not half the budget of what he was going to work with later on movies. Bam. You can even tell there that Scotty's hair was different because they had to go back and shoot stuff. But I really like the remake too, the 2013 one. I know a lot of people didn't like that one, and I thought it was fun. I love the sheer amount of practical effects in it. I like how uncomfortable it got with some of its gore. My face on these hot coals are burning my pretty flesh. Even the edges on her makeup and stuff like that. Like, obviously, if you're watching this in 35 millimeter, you wouldn't be able to see it. But in 4K, watching it now, you can pick up on it. But I'm fine with it. I think it's just, again, I've said it a million times already. It just adds to the charm of this entire thing, of these young filmmakers who are like, let's put on a show. Let's do a magic trick. Let's make the wildest, goriest thing that we possibly can. You know. Just so happens Scotty has his knife. Hit her. Bites through her own hand to get it off. Sure looks like Quasimodo a little bit too. Ooh. It's just so gross and weird and fun and ridiculous. Just know all the sounds they make in this too. I've just seen this so many fucking times. It's supposed to be so boring for people to watch and listen to. I'd love to watch movies like this with somebody who's never seen it before and just get their reaction to it. You know, it's one of the downfalls of being a movie nerd and spending so much time alone is I watch this stuff over and over again. It becomes like audio wallpaper for me, and it's always on in the background. I'll pop on Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2 or something like that, and you're shooting out. But all right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have this chick spewing, milk out of her mouth and out of her armholes and shit like that, and they're just like, yeah, sure, Sam, whatever you want to do. Looks like Scotty needs a new girlfriend. But I've also met people who don't like this movie. I've met people who don't like any of these movies. Not even just the gore and stuff like that. They just like, they're like, oh, it's so corny. you know, and it's so simple, like, you know, give me a story, and I'm like, why? What's wrong with paying your admission and getting on the dark ride? You know, I grew up down the Jersey Shore. We had all kinds of haunted house rides and stuff like that. Hit her. Then a shot very similar to this was in Tom Savini's remake of Night of the Living Dead as well. No, no, you love her. Just there you go. The blood literally coming down the screen. You know, if you were seeing this, I can only imagine seeing this in a theater for the first time with an audience. Because again, I saw this at my friend's house in Marlton, New Jersey, just he and I in his bedroom, and being like, "What the fuck?" But like, I can only imagine 1982 seeing this in a theater with other people, and like as the parts are twitching because they're under the floorboards making the parts switch and stuff like that. I got to imagine it'd be like it'd be fucking crazy, you know? It'd be like I distinctly remember seeing Jurassic Park in the theater when I was a little kid when it came out in '93, and the very first time that you see the T Rex, like people in the audience gasped. You know, I imagine like what would have been like the first time they showed King Kong in '33, or what would have been like the first time that you saw Karloff step out as the Frankenstein monster. You know, I always wonder. You know, I always think it was such a cool thing to go if you could ever go back and see that stuff fresh. Because at my point, you know, granted, I didn't know that Army of Darkness had two movies before it, you know? And nobody was really talking about Evil Dead at that point the way that they do now. You know, it found a resurgence, I believe, in the era of the internet. Is when this movie kind of popped back up into the collective consciousness. Because even when I saw it in '93, '94, it wasn't like, oh yeah, Evil Dead, you know. And now it's mentioned in sitcoms, and you know they Jack Black brings it up in High Fidelity. He brings up Evil Dead 2, and you know, characters dress up as Ash and things. Like, it's far more of a cultural part of the pop culture now. Even Raimi, like, you know, pre Spider Man, he was a respected filmmaker, but he wasn't Sam Raimi to people at that point. Like, Darkman didn't do very well. The Quick and the Dead didn't do very well. You know, For the Love of the Game, Simple Plan, The Gift. You know, a lot of those non Evil Dead and non Spider-Man movies always kind of like take a back seat, but I always think they're great. Like, I think A Simple Plan is fantastic. I think The Gift is one of the best modern pieces, and it's not even modern anymore. It's 20 something years old. Pieces of American Gothic that we have in film. An incredible cast, like, you know, Keanu Reeves playing a bad guy, and the Katie Holmes boobs thing that they reference a bunch in Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. You know, he got to make his baseball movie with Love of the Game with Kevin Costner pitching for the Detroit Tigers in it because Raimi's from Detroit and they're big Tigers fans. I like Darkman a lot. I feel like that's another one that's kind of gotten a resurgence recently. I like this shot here coming up with the leg, and apparently it took forever to do this shot where the spider web kind of grows out of the wound. Now she becomes like a Cupid doll from hell. I don't know why people feel the need to honk their horns like that outside. Jump scare from Scotty. And then we go from here. It's just a bunch of movies of ancient demons just making one dude's life miserable. And I like that. We're all gonna get out of here together. Wouldn't you like that? It's like, he's dead. Your friend is dead, and you're too dumb to realize it. Scotty. Scott. And like, your friend is severely injured. Stop slapping him. I also like that, don't you, Ash? Her makeup is great. Just the way that, like, the brow and the mouth is built up to, where you could see kind of pink and red behind it. Like, I know that wasn't the intention, but it looks cool, and you could also see, the purples and stuff that they added. Like, it is so Halloween haunted attraction. Again, it just adds. I don't know. Am I gushing too much about this movie? Shut up. Oh, Ash hit a woman. Let's cancel him. This poor guy. Everything's chunky. Everything's like there's almost too much texture to everything. Because it's just like they don't know any better, and they're just caking on the makeup and caking on the gore and stuff like that, and the backgrounds just like to have some kind of depth of field to it. It's so not the way that a more polished filmmaker would make a movie, but goddamn, am I glad that they did, because it just left such a mark. Don't let them take me again. Deerhead's gonna get more love in the second one when it laughs at him. Ashley, I'm okay. It's like, is anybody okay though? Like, after everything they've just seen? And then this cabin has been torn down. All that still exists from it is what's left of the chimney, because over years people figured out where it was, and they stole chunks of rock from it and stuff. Don't let them out, you fucking idiot. How did you survive this many movies? Boom. It's your sister Cheryl. Very Three Stooges with the fish hook with the thumb. God, why are you torturing me this way? Yep, and she's back to being an evil doll. We're gonna get you out another peep. Time to go to sleep. And the sound of the clock and I just imagine like giving this because I know what it's like giving scripts to uh, actors and actresses and like okay we're gonna do this and then their heads they got to be like wait what like why are we doing this like yeah just take her outside that's fine. And this, like, where did they get all the glassware from too? Not even just for this, but like when they were eating salad and shit earlier in the movie. Like, did they bring up? Ash, he's dead. Okay, bud, you're not holding out too well here. We're all gonna go home together. Wouldn't you like that? I read recently that they want to do a Drag Me to Hell sequel through Raimi's company Ghost House, um, and that'd be kind of cool. Uh, I actually really dug the first one. Who's calling me? You didn't even hear her get back in the house. Knocking his dead friend over. Oh no. This is why I never go camping. That's why I never go to cabin in the woods. And because I'm never invited, or have money, or weekends off. But other than that, it's because I'm scared of the Deadites. Boom. More milk. And they complained so much about the glass eye contact things they had to wear because they couldn't see and they couldn't leave them in very long and everybody's eyes were getting all fucked up because they'd have to keep them in to shoot all the stuff that they need. Well, ashy slashy. Just little things like little film choices like having the camera on the ground and just dragging it along the ground with them and the depth of field isn't correct or anything like that but it doesn't have to be. It's just like pure fucking punk rock filmmaking. All the little insert shots building the segment and then the that you have when he connects the thing like obviously this was a huge inspiration for Edgar Wright, and you'd notice that from any of his movies. In those little timed beats are all building to a visual storytelling. And then our first glimpse of the chainsaw, which will become such a huge part of Evil Dead lore. I'd be terrified if I was that actress. She's clearly still alive because you can see her breathing. You can't do it. Yeah, she saw what she's going to turn into. You might want to just go ahead and bodily dismember her like the tape says. But he gives him a little character beat. He didn't need to do that. It is also to show kind of like, a little humanity left in this character, but it's also so that we have more things to come back and fuck with him later, you know? And I've never seen, I guess Sullivan storyboarded all this stuff. But there's a lot of interesting shots that I was wondering if it was just something that Raimi made up or that Sullivan came up with. Um, like when he brings the cross down and stuff, because they've done that again in other Sam Raimi movies. Um, but I was wondering, I wonder whose idea that was. If that was something that Raimi wrote into the script. And then their little eyes closed, eyes open game comes back in a different way. Little things like you don't see that a lot for, especially of this era of video nasty style movies. They were all extremely blunt, and while this movie is incredibly blunt as well, there's a little bit more nuance to it than that. Again, anybody who's watching this review is going to be like, Jesus, Nuke, quit fucking jerking off to this movie. Imagine your nose hair being immortalized on film 42 years later. And a lot of the people making this, they never thought that anybody would see this movie again. They're like, whatever, we made this little thing. Nobody's going to see it. It's clearly one of the fake Shemps right there. For the woman. They come up to this remote part of the Tennessee wilderness with us so we can make this movie. I would be like, no. But now, after they see the success of Evil Dead and Blair Witch and movies like that, they'll be like, of course I'll go up to this remote part of the Tennessee wilderness with you. Because I could do conventions forever and be part of the Women of the Evil Dead. Another great just POV shot to make you part of, a part of the story. Should have held onto the shovel just in case. I did my Swamp Zombies 2 commentary track, and Ash throwing the thing sort of reminded me of when the guys in Swamp Zombies throw the guns. Like, well, you're gonna need that. Out here, this stuff sort of reminds me a little bit of Bob Clark's Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things to a degree. Oh, God. It's like my cat when I don't get out of bed early enough to feed her when she wants. Just claws the shit out of me. Whack. One of the other... the other actress gets brought in. You're like, well, what am I doing? Am I going to be the lead? Well, you're going to stand in for the lead, and we're going to whack you with a 2x4. Get the shovel. Shouldn't have thrown it. Awesome. Just the way all the little pieces go together and how relentless it is and how the body's kind of grinding on top of him while spraying blood and the head hits perfectly and the eyes and the mouth are moving and stuff like that. There's just so much ingenuity and creativity on display here. That there was no way that this movie was not going to be something that would resonate with audiences. So I've seen a lot of really creative movies over the years that you tell it to people and they go, I've never heard of that. But this one, it seems like everyone's pretty much heard of it. Uh-oh, Cheryl's loose. Clock stopped. They're in a bad place here, Ash. And there's really nowhere to go. Where are you going to go? Can't get over the bridge. You're going to run out in the woods. You've kind of established at this point that the woods are, you know, out to get you as well. I would love to see what the people who own this cabin, like if they were like, what are you doing? You're shooting a little movie there? That's great. If they would have come up during filming and been like, what the fuck? Boom. They fired real shotguns. I also like the stuff where the camera was at the end of a rod, like a ramrod, basically, and just goes through the windows or through the trees and stuff like that. And it's just like whack. Ah, as someone who's had their hand crushed in a door before, don't like that. There's the shot right there. That's in Nightmare on Elm Street. You hear like people peeling out. I live under a train, so like there isn't really a lot of road, but people just fucking peel out of here into this little skinny road here. Run out, you know, you're bleeding really bad. You're pipes are filled with blood. Where is it rust? We don't know. Like, why would you stand there knowing, boom. And here's where it just goes like, we're off the rails now. There's blood coming out of everywhere. It's filling up light bulbs. It's coming out of the walls. Like, this is where this movie really, you know, goes crazy. And this is like, you know, this is the stuff that like makes me go like, wow, like. Some young filmmakers who were just like, yeah, why not? Let's just see what happens, you know. But to even have the bravery to come up with this shit in the first place. How many bullets do we have? Don't call them bullets, call them shells. How many shells do we have? Shaun of the Dead. The splotches of green on him and stuff. Like, where'd that come from? Who knows? Who cares? Dun, 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 dun. I have that exact projector. The light bulb smashing. He's in hell now. He's the, you know, the woods are completely in control at this point. Troinos. There's a great shot coming up. You see, like I've done this shot a bunch of times and little things of like just coming up the steps underneath of him to watch him go. behind the the clock and stuff like that. Just like little things that just make you go, oh, this is so great. I'm so embarrassed now. I'm gonna go back and rewatch this and be like, God, you gushed like a big loser about this fucking movie, man. I genuinely owe so much of what I want to do as a filmmaker to this movie. Coming down in front of him. Just nothing is safe and nothing is real or natural anymore. There's no laws or rhyme or reason to anything at this point. Here you go. The switch there of the foot to the transition. It's like, how do you think of that? There's nothing you would learn in film school that would say like, this is your transition. This is just a guy doing like, it'd be cool. Or that's that the shot from Nightmare on Elm Street? I haven't seen Nightmare on Elm Street in a long time. Boop, boop, boop. But if you look at like the movies that were like, prosecuted as video nasties, like you can't see how this one would be in that. Just like the mirror things too is so cool, and how so many elements of this he would do again in the second one, but a bit more refined. But like you look at a lot of the crap that came out during the video nasty era, and you just look at something like this and you go like, this is apples and car batteries. Like, it's not even the same type of thing. Like, this is a film. Yeah, it's got gore in it and stuff like that, but it's so cartoonish that you can't look at it in the same way that you would look at a Cannibal Holocaust or something like that. But there's a whole bunch of movies that made the list for that I'm just like, why is this on this list? The Witch Who Came from the Sea, like, why is that movie on the video nasties list? It's like there's not really a lot of dialogue or anything like that, and it's funny that I had the subtitles on, because it's just like saying what the ominous sounds are on the screen. Aren't you glad you could see me throughout this entire thing? Boom. I also love how thin the wood looks in 4K. Ouch. But again, they when they were making this movie, they were just happy if anybody saw this movie. They weren't thinking about what it would look like blown up and cleaned up in HD. Scotty's back. I never noticed that cut that was there either when he comes up. And just how little factor the Necronomicon actually has in the main context of this movie. Whereas in the other movies, it's more of a character. There you go. Eyeball gouging. They did this same shot in 28 Days Later. And that's a piece of wood, but I remember people thinking that was his dick the first time we saw this movie. I remember my friend being like, did he pull his penis off? everyone's full of milk and smoke. How the fuck do you keep continuity when it comes to the blood in these scenes too? That's why it's all over the place. And it's like, it's impossible. When you're having that much gore, it'd just be completely impossible. Uh-oh. I love when you get to when they're breaking down the sounds they make, where she sounds like a clock being wound up. Little things like that I just think are so cool. Oh no. Just let the book burn. Hooah. Thump. But they keep the piece of her cheek falling off. And then all this stuff. Like, all this wild fucking, you know, stop motion animation. Like, why is this doing this? Who knows? But it's awesome. And it's so unexpected from everything else that we've seen to this point in the movie that it was just like, what do we do? Like, what can you do? Well, I could do stop motion animation, and we could do all this stuff, and the book's alive and everything. And it's like, well, yeah, why wouldn't we do that? It's just weird and fucking cool, and shows just how to expect the unexpected in these type of movies. It's like the cottage cheese, just cuz. Boom. It's like, I love that, because again, we go into the second one when you get the apple monster. Basically, it looks like it would be in the same vein as these hands coming out of the bodies and stuff like that. But it just goes crazy at this point. Just more shit to spray on Ash. You got cockroaches inside of us, and snakes, and you know. So this technically could be in the this could be in the Halloween 3 universe then, if we're full of bugs and snakes. And it was at that moment that Ash realized he was not getting his security deposit back for this rental. I mean, look, I've broken up with a girlfriend on vacation before, but nothing like this. And he's alive, and day has come, and it's like the end of Friday the 13th, where, you know, he's safe, it's over. Clock's ticking again, the sun's out. All the fog is gone. We're back into the real world. But unfortunately, you know, the dead like fucking with the living. I also have to imagine if they shot this in any form of sequence, by the end of this, knowing that they could all go home and be done with this movie is probably like breathing, getting out of prison and breathing free air for the first time. But does this mean the bridge is fixed? Like, boom. Uh-oh. My only complaint is I would have started this in from inside the house, and I would have had it come at him so it's a little bit less obvious what's going to happen because the end sting is so perfect, but I would have had less of the lead into it, just so we're not quite sure what's going on at this point before we get to the boom, and then we're into the credits. Written and directed by Sam Raimi, produced by Robert Tappert, starring Bruce Campbell, obviously. Evil Dead is, I don't care how many times I watch it, I pick something new every time, and it just makes me, as soon as it's over, I want to go fucking make a movie, man. I want to do weird camera shit. I want to throw gore around and stuff like that. I want to continue to push the ways of moving the camera and not being so stationary like every B movie is anymore, and not having the budget be a hindrance where you could just kind of like go crazy. Now, I'm not a good filmmaker like Sam Raimi, but still every time I talk about these movies. Joel Cohen was the assistant film editor of the Coen brothers, going on to do huge things. There's all our fake Shemps. Scott Spiegel was one of them. Yeah, man, every single time I watch these movies, I talk about these movies, the first thing I want to do is just go and make something. It inspires me every fucking time, and I genuinely love this movie. I love the entire series. It's filmmaking ingenuity at its finest. So, Evil Dead. Obviously, you've seen it before. Obviously, you know all the stories and everything. But I'm glad that I could sit and watch it with you guys and kind of gush a little bit about my admiration for this movie and horror and filmmaking as a whole. That it's not all just simplistic, like two people talking in a room until a slasher shows up or something like that. That you can do create things with it, with your lighting, with your camera movements, with your sound, with your little quirkiness. And this movie took all those tricks that Raimi had learned from Slapstick and from Buster Keaton and from other horror movies and the drive-in scene and all that, and what the distributors wanted, and put them all together in this thing that's gonna exist forever. So that's all I got for you guys this commentary track. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you on the next one.